And now, it's time for a Star Trek story. Star Trek stories. Episode 7, I think, Ron Aaron.
Our 7th episode of the podcast. Meaning last week was our 6th.
Yeah, I believe so. And that would
vaguely remember that.
I think that means the next one is 8.
Whoa.
Call me crazy, but I think that's what that means.
We might just jump ahead to 11.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. So glad to have you here. Once again, I'm Jaron Hatch, your illustrious host, and joined by my other lovely illustrious host, Aaron Cole.
Hi, everybody.
If for those who have been watching or for those who have not been listening, one of the two, we are about, I think, halfway through now our look at classic Star Trek, in particular the 60s show, about halfway through. Last time we watched Amok Time. That was our very first Vulcan episode, and that was one of the rare character-centric episodes in the OG, focusing on, of course, Spock.
Yeah, so this means it's good that this episode is the one we're watching, because it's like we're smack dab in the middle, and in storytelling, that's where the Dark Forest shows up, right?
Oh, is that what's about to happen?
Yeah, so we're entering the Dark Forest with this episode.
Doesn't the Dark Forest happen a little sooner?
Does it? I thought it was always smack dab in the middle.
I never paid attention to stuff in school. I write stories, but I just make it up as I go, though.
Yeah.
There's never been one Dark Forest in any of my stories. So last time we watched a Spock episode, I think we all thoroughly enjoyed it. This week we are again watching a Spock episode. So this is kind of going to be a little bit of a Spock twofer. Looking a little more into Spock. And we're also going to be getting our first look at a first little taste of what the Federation is. I don't think we've really looked at too much of what the Federation is at this point in the show. That'll be fun as well. But before we get to any of that fun stuff, we have another guest host with us. Yay! This week, watching Star Trek with us is my very good friend and the very lovely Markay Llewellyn. How are you?
Hello, hi. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Hi.
We met each other back at Even Stevens Sandwiches.
The old haunt.
Yeah, what would this have been? 2014, 2015?
Yeah, I think winter 2014, spring 2015.
Wow.
Yeah.
The before times.
The before times.
The before
times. When the world was simple.
Yeah, and that's how you and Aaron know each other.
That's right. I came into Even Stevens much later. Mm-hmm. You were on your way out, pretty much.
Yeah, well, you joined and I had to leave.
Yeah. It was me personally that caused Markay to leave Even Stevens.
Oh, no. It's good to see you. Yeah.
You too.
I remember working at the sandwich counter, and then where the orders were taken, and then you would come in, and I just looked up, and then we had just oh, hello. And then I feel like we basically have been friends literally since that first moment.
Since that moment. I remember it too. I remember walking into this place and there was this very tall guy working behind the counter with this very cool hat. And you were just so incredibly friendly right off the bat. And we just had a casual repertoire right away. And I knew I wanted to work there. And it was, I was working there within 3 days of that instance. I think I went back that afternoon and applied and interviewed the following day and was hired.
And then eventually you were like, oh, there's this place in the Avenues here in Salt Lake City that opened up, and I'm looking for a place. Do you want to get a place together? I was like, fuck yeah. And then we became roommates.
Yeah. It was an awesome year.
For a year, yeah, we were roommates in this very place that we're recording in our Star Trek living room.
History.
Yeah, that was really fun.
If these walls could talk.
Oh, my God. I know. I mean, they would get sucked right into our endless conversations. That's all we ever did was just, come home and then just, blah, 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 and then just suddenly well, it's 11 o'clock, it's time to go to bed, and all we did all day was talk about just whatever.
And I was in my early 20s at the time, so I was just overthinking the whole world, and you were more than willing to help me get all of those thoughts out and unpack them and figure out what's going on, and we just talk and talk and talk.
Yeah, because I was definitely underthinking everything at that point.
I would never describe you as underthinking.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun though. This is kind of appropriate for the episode we're going to watch in a little bit.
Oh yeah, Star Trek.
Just because the episode we're going to watch, Journey to Babel, is definitely about family, and I mean it's fun talking about some of this stuff because it's like as I'm reflecting on some of this conversation, I'm looking at you, Aaron, and I'm looking at you, Markay. I'm like, these are two people that like. There's like the friends. You have friends. But then there's like a category of like, then there's like your chosen family people. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's a little more and it's a little different, and it's like, there almost these seemingly family dynamics, and like we live together, Aaron, with everyone, people who've had on the podcast, like Tyson and Jake. And then we've lived together, Markay, and then we've had like our little kitty friends join us as part of our families, and it's always interesting to me to kind of reflect on those like chosen family groups. You always have, of course, your blood family, but you're kind of you can't really do much with that. I mean, they're wonderful, of course, hopefully, if you're lucky. But then there is something about it's fun to have but having that sense of family is always so important in everything, and it's fun to get to be able to later in life realize that you can actually choose new family members. And I feel like that's with you two. I'm like, that's kind of what we all did. Like, kind of had our own little family units, like living together, like with you guys, and then living with you, Markay, was definitely was our little family there for a second.
Yeah, the chosen family. I love that you can have these people and they're in your court and they support you, but at the same time, I mean, life gets so busy and so involved, and with those people that you choose, you don't need to check in all the time. You know that there's a mutual trust of, if you need me, you tell me and I'll be there. And then until we see each other again, we wish each other the very best. And then when you see each other, it's like you were never apart at all. You just pick up right back where you were, and
that's exactly it. Yeah.
They go, yeah.
It's like you never missed a beat when you see me the next time. Yeah.
Yeah, before we started this podcast, we hadn't seen each other a whole lot. Aaron had been in a hot second, and with you, Markay, it's also been a hot second. But then seeing when we started doing it, and then seeing you here, it's it's that same thing. It's just oh yeah, you just get right back into it. It's so interesting because that's definitely not everyone. I think for you, Markay, you live I feel like you live in an interesting place with Star Trek fandom. I would call you pretty casual, but you genuinely love it.
I do, yes. And I would agree it's an interesting place because I've never sat down and watched the whole thing, but Star Trek was something my dad really loved, and he wanted to share that love with my brothers, and so it wasn't something I was actively involved in, and I was a very serious child, so the silliness of Star Trek was completely lost on me at the time. But now that I've given it a shot again, and I've come to understand kind of the intent of the show, it's just now something that I just truly adore. I very much support the fandom. Anything about any memes of the show, any episodes I've seen, they just truly delight me. It's an incredible franchise.
Yeah, so Journey to Babel, this is November 17th, 1967, going back in time. This was the 15th episode produced for the second season, so we're about halfway through the second season now. This is another close look at Spock. It's a Spock episode. Clearly classic Trek's breakout character. If you ask basically anyone, who's your favorite show, at least your favorite character from the OG show, I think basically everyone will just instantly say Spock.
Yeah, or who do you know from the show?
Yeah.
From a casual perspective, probably Spock or Kirk.
Yeah, even people who don't know the show at all, they know the guy with the pointed ears.
They can do the hand.
Yeah, the hand thing. Yeah.
That thing, yeah.
While we're watching, we can think about what is it that makes Spock such a beloved character? Why do people latch on to Spock? What is it about Spock that we like, that we want to reach out to him? Something to keep in mind as we watch. This is also another look at like the best friend triangle between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, which at this point in our watch, we've definitely seen now pretty established. I think at this point in the show, like that Kirk, Spock, McCoy is like the beating heart of the show, like their little bromance. Can maybe also consider like what is it about those three that we like so much? Why do they work so well? Like why are like they the heart and soul of the show? Other little thing to kind of keep an eye out for, like this is our first closer look at the Federation. The Enterprise is part of Starfleet, which serves the United Federation of Planets. I think the Federation goes on to become one of the most important aspects of Star Trek. At this point, though, like it hasn't featured heavily, I think, into the kind of stories we've gotten. It's mostly just been them out there just doing random stuff. So we haven't really seen a lot of like the world.
You get the sense it's all there, like through Roddenberry's vision,
Yeah.
but you just haven't seen it yet.
We haven't really seen it in any kind of detail or depth. And this is kind of like the first time they really start to show you this is kind of the world that they're a part of. So that's also something to kind of think about, like what's our feeling about the Federation, especially like since it's their first appearance. Realistically, like what makes them interesting or not? How do they relate to the story? I don't know if this is usually considered to be one of the all-time franchise greats, but I feel like if most people did like a top 10 of their favorite original series episodes, I think this one would get on most people's top 10. So
Okay.
definitely one of the like classics of the classic show.
Fantastic.
So good.
So again, so we got
Oh, good.
Wow, okay.
It's
Yeah,
so good.
I love it.
So yes, we can also ask ourselves, does this one still hold up? If you are going to watch it with us, you can queue up Star Trek: The Original Series on Paramount Plus. I believe if you go to Season 2, Episode 10, you will find Journey to Babel. We're going to kick back, have some treats, share some laughs, and watch some Star Trek, and we will see you after that.
Spock, I've always suspected that you were a little more human than you let on. Mrs. Serac, I know about the rigorous training of the Vulcan youth, but tell me, did he ever run and play like the human children, even in secret?
Well, he did have a pet sailor he was very fond of.
Salad?
It's sort of a fat teddy bear.
A teddy bear?
Excuse me, Doctor. It's been a rather long day for my wife.
Captain. Ambassador. A teddy bear?
Not precisely, Doctor. On Vulcan, the teddy bears are alive, and they have 6-inch fangs.
Just got done watching Journey to Babel.
Oof.
Oof. Oof.
Yeah. A bit of an oof episode. Kind
That was
of
an intense one.
dramatic, heavy tones.
Yeah, that's what we'll start first. Like initial thoughts. Markay, what's just the initial thoughts coming right off of this?
Well, I definitely see. I understand why you were talking about chosen family in the intro for sure. Because this episode, it's where we meet Spock's parents, who's, for those who don't know, Spock's dad is a Vulcan and his mother is a human. And Spock does not get along with his parents. I mean, he seems to be on good terms with his mom, but you find out he and his dad haven't really spoken for about 18 years. And you learn that he's never really been accepted by either humans or Vulcans, but he does have this very solid chosen family within his Star Trek team and within the Federation. And he, being part of this, he has his own sense of community, his own sense of belonging, and it's something that he can rely on. And so, that's a big takeaway from me for sure.
Spock relying on like Kirk and Spock, and like the rest of his homies essentially.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, but the parents are here, But I know.
How do we all support each other when our parents are around?
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Yeah, you really see that come to a head too when he's in that scene with his mom, and having to basically say no to his blood family and say yes to his chosen family because of his duty. He's like, this is where my duty lies. This is like the life I've chosen, the people I've chosen.
Yeah.
I love that take. I was not paying that much attention, honestly. I did not go that deep into the episode.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
But it was fun to watch. It was good.
Yeah, it's fun that on that note that you said like I'm choosing my chosen family, but then like Kirk kind of comes through. It's like we can't let Spock just let his dad die.
Yeah.
We got to come through for Spock. And so like we're gonna make sure you do the whole scene where they get Spock out of the chair, and it's like so you can take care of his dad. But then Spock and then Kirk has to stay in the captain's chair while this situation goes down.
Bleeding out of his kidney.
This is one I always like. It's fun just to see. It's always fun to. There's so few of these episodes that are like so character centric in the OG show, and it's fun to see Spock's like parents and just how they interact with. If you've always seen them all as a family, and then to see Spock's parents kind of come in, it kind of makes everyone kind of take a step back and kind of look at like, oh, okay, like, yeah, we are all a family, but I guess we do all have our own families separate from us, and how that kind of affects the kind of dynamics of everything.
And you kind of get a sense of their struggle as a family unit, like Spock and his parents, and I feel like that gives such a sense of familiarity to your human side. Like, oh, they really are just like us, just with pointy ears. They try to hide it, but yeah, like they're going through a lot of the same issues that a human family would go through.
And they point out you get to see the family issues within the Enterprise itself a lot, like the way, especially at the end, when Kirk and Spock are both in the infirmary recovering, and you get to see, remind me the doctor's name. McCoy. You get to see McCoy finally has the last word, which I feel like is such a middle child experience. I feel like you get the sense that they're constantly nagging each other and arguing with each other, and like McCoy, he's finally at this point where he's taking care of them and he gets to have his last word, and that really is like sealed in that they are their own family also, and they have their own issues, but they also really come through and support each other, like with how they had to help Spock help his dad. Spock would not have done that if he wasn't supported by his chosen family.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an extension of like we had spoken earlier in earlier episodes how it's like they started this whole idea of the space western, and like the focus is you know these big idea episodes, but what really ends up coming through strongest is this idea of like friendship with like Kirk and Spock and like McCoy. That kind of ends up being like what the show kind of ends up being about, even though they have these big high concept episodes. But what carries it through each week per week is that these people all care about each other so much and like are able to keep going into all this stuff. So it's fun to kind of see. Like I feel like this is maybe the episode. Last episode was kind of about this too, like the friendship between them. But this kind of turns it more into like that one was a little bit more about friendship. This one seems now to push it in this kind of more like family. We are all a family all together.
Mm-hmm. And a crew. Like it touches on like the nautical sailing aspect of the olden times, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like that crew coming together and being something more than themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it captures that so well.
Mm-hmm. They're all more than the sum of their parts.
Yeah.
So how do we feel about? So this is like our second look at Spock. Okay, this is our first look at Spock together, but like now this being like a Spock episode, what is it about Spock? Like, how do we feel about Spock? How does this like enlighten his character? Like, what is it about Spock? Like, he's really the only character who gets any kind of character like development or look in the OG show. What is it about Spock that's interesting?
I feel like he's almost like a fallen angel, which I think he takes on the role of like in the movies especially. He takes it in a very Tolkien direction. The character, you know, I think he had a lot of insight there. He seems like one of the, when you read like the Silmarillion or something, like one of the arch elves that fell to Middle Earth or
like Gandalf.
Like Gandalf, yeah.
Yeah, the Maiar, like the basically angelic beings who come to Middle Earth to help.
Yeah, that are given from like Elven Heaven on Earth, whatever it's called, I can't remember.
Yeah, the Undying Lands, Valinor.
Yeah, in a lot of ways,
Tolkien
that's what,
nerddom coming
through. That's what the Vulcans are.
Yeah.
Like they're the elves that come down and enlighten the humans with all their blessed ways and their technology and whatever. Just told with a different skin on it, you know what I mean? So for me, that's what Spock represents. And he's like innocent and naive to a lot of the ways of humanity. And him learning about his human ways is a journey for us as well. Like discovering parts of ourselves that we see in Spock. Yeah.
It's interesting that you kind of bring up this idea of like, yeah, like the Maiar or like one of the, you know, the Vala from Valinor. But it's like, what if one of those had a kid with just a human? And so this offspring shows up and it's like, I am supposed to kind of be this, but I'm also human. And so there's this constant self-doubting about, there's this, you can tell with Spock, there's this impossible ideal, especially when you see his dad show up. You definitely see like there is this impossible ideal that has been put on Spock to live up to. And he's just how am I so, his dad seems like a very epic person, this Federation ambassador, and like not just any Vulcan, but like one of the great Vulcans. And so how am I supposed to possibly live up to this? And then his mom almost kind of like, you can tell he loves her, but he's embarrassed by her because she represents all his flaws and like what's human about him. And he's just like, I love you so much, but I'm Vulcan.
Yeah. He's caught between that rock and the hard place.
Yeah.
What I find really interesting about all of that is that, because what you're describing, like the Vulcan expectations that he has to live up to and his human flaws, and in a bizarre twist way, that might be the most human experience of all time. I mean, all we are all ever doing is we're trying to live up to whatever expectations were put onto our shoulders when we were raised, whatever those were, and we're all trying to overcome our human flaws, like our health or finances or needing to have a job these things that come with being in the human experience, and we're trying to live up to our own dreams and our own goals, whatever those may be, and we're trying to be bigger and better than what we're feeling and what we're experiencing. And so weirdly enough, it's almost that by having those Vulcan experiences, he embodies what it means to be human.
That's really interesting. This idea of like, what is it to be human? And it's like you are told from when you're a kid, either like where you come from, or like you get a notion from your parents of what you think you're supposed to be. Then eventually that comes in a conflict with who you start to realize who you actually are, but it's in conflict with this idea of who you're supposed to be. And Spock is very much on that note, like almost like a personification of this issue. And like you could plug so many different kind of experiences. Like Spock can kind of be like an allegory for a lot of different kind of. He's both like the outsider and everything, but also this kind of difference is what makes him so strong, though, because he's, Kirk says he's my best officer. Like there's no question that Spock is like the greatest among them. He's just got so much potential, but he's so just reserved about it, and it's interesting that kind of like what separates him is also what makes him so strong and why everyone ends up so caring about him. But then it's hard to always see that because in your head, you're always playing this game of who you think you're supposed to be versus who you actually are. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't remember who the philosopher is, but there's a quote that I heard that I've always loved, and it's, "I am who I think that you think that I am."
Yeah.
Meaning that we are always trying to interpret the perceptions of others and live up to that perception. But even what you understand someone else's perception to be is filtered through your own perception. So you'll never truly know what that is, and yet we still continue to try to fill this role for people that we're around. And it's very interesting.
Yeah, you don't entirely exist just within yourself. Like who you are is also kind of this weird mix, like you kind of exist in other people, and then they share you, whether directly or indirectly, their perceptions of you, and that helps, that almost telling you who you are. This is what I see, so this is how I'm treating you. Mm-hmm. Oh, that must be who I am to some degree.
Yeah, and some people just listen to that, and they don't dig further into it, or especially when what they're being told is something negative or something very putting you in a box. It's very easy to, and maybe even comfortable to stay in that box and say, well, I've been defined, I guess I can stop. It would be very simple for Spock to say, oh, well, I'm Vulcan. Logic is safe and comfortable. I understand it. I'm going to just stick with that, and I'm not going to explore my human side at all. But it, just as you pointed out, it's that difference that he has that makes him such a valuable asset to the team. And that's why it's so important that we all explore those differences that we have within ourselves so that we can truly be the best contribution to this human team that we're all on. Mm-hmm. And if you don't acknowledge those differences, then you won't ever get to know who you really are.
How can you not relate to that to some degree? Whatever it is, I think everyone experiences it a little differently, certainly.
Absolutely.
But everyone, I think, to some degree, like looks at Spock and it's like, for being the most alien, he's somehow also the most human and relatable. That's very interesting.
And that's something we kind of talked about with Star Trek as a whole, how it's like it's great to look at human issues through the lens of sci-fi in Star Trek because it removes you, gives you a nice screen to see those issues objectively. Like Spock is that screen for your humanness. Like he gives you a nice objective look at humanity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Forces you to take a step back, but on a more personal level. Who am I? Rather than like, who are we? Humanity. And what do these things mean to us? Spock is much more like, but who am I? And how do I resolve this there's always this conflict. It's always hard to pin down exactly what that inner conflict is. But Spock somehow seems to be a great representation of whatever that inner human conflict is.
He's always on a precipice, like no matter what. Even old Spock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always. Who am I? But so much wisdom comes from that because he's always asking himself that question. So he's always got some kind of wise little thing to say, I feel like, because of it. So much of that wisdom comes from that. He's constantly wrestling with that conflict within him.
Absolutely. And I think the day you stop asking yourself that question is the day you stop growing. And the day you stop allowing yourself to transform and learn more things. When you say, oh, I am defined as this and that's it. It could be that you're putting a cap on yourself and putting a limit on your potential.
No, I would agree. That constantly questioning is what keeps you going. Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. And on this same note of like found families, so like we had mentioned, like at this point in the show, they're definitely like unquestionably like the center of the series. What about them? Like, why do they work so well? Like, why does the show choose to focus? Because when we started, Aaron, that's not where the focus was.
No.
At all. It just kind of becomes the focus.
Yeah, it was much more an ensemble piece.
Yeah, like Kirk as the lead, and then like his crew, and then it kind of becomes the Kirk, Spock, McCoy show, and also starring everyone else.
Right.
So what is it about them that works?
I think they just have a natural chemistry first. Like as actors, they bounce off each other. They perform well together. The camaraderie feels natural, probably because it is in a lot of ways. I'm sure they were all friends off camera as well. Those three. I know a couple other cast members tended to butt heads with Shatner and whatever. But yeah, it seems like they caught on to something in the ether and wrote it into the sunset. You know, just this beautiful thing, a 1 in a million shot, and it just works to me.
Yeah, they're all three very strong. As characters, they're very strong personalities. All of them. They're all born leaders. They are all very key members of the crew. But they're very different in their values. They're very different in their approaches to problem solving. They're very different with their backgrounds and their professions. All of it. They're very, very different individuals. But it's the bringing together those differences and respecting each other's differences that makes them an incredible team and that makes them work so well together. And I mean, that might even highlight a big central theme with Star Trek in general, which is the reason why I love Star Trek so much, is that the show really emphasizes the value in embracing the differences in others rather than fearing them or criticizing them, but truly, and not even just appreciating, but embracing those things that make us all different. And that is what theoretically leads to a society that can work together enough to explore the cosmos, to overcome whatever is going on their home planet and branch out and explore and meet new species, meet new realms of people and beings. And you can't do that unless you have three dudes who are very stubborn but very different and can look at all of these perspectives. So it makes sense that these three would become very central to the show.
Yeah. It's like the ultimate, I feel like Star Trek in some ways is like the ultimate showcase for we're stronger together. That idea, and I don't think that's like initially what the show was necessarily going for, but it seems like that's what they kind of stumble upon when they're doing it. It's like, oh, the only reason why we're able to go out here and do this is because we can all get along, and those three particularly feel like a good kind of like representation of like how that works. Because they all do have their own little different, like they're all very strong personalities, and they all come at things so differently. They're about, like, if there really was like a triangle of like how you can approach things, they are all at like the far polar ends of it, this weird triangle. They just all kind of, but they all seem to recognize that they all exist at those points, and that it's, rather than fight each other, it's like, tell me what's going on down there, tell me what's going on here, and then they can figure out what reality is almost, it's like, oh, here's the clearer picture because we're able to share these, they all have very extreme perspectives on things. Kirk is leadership and action, and then Spock is like introspection and logic, and and then McCoy is the feeling, and the, we're human, damn it, and this very emotional expression of this. But they all three of these things are treated as, none of them are treated as if they're not valid. They're all treated as if they're all very valid, and only can we come to a clear understanding of something as if we're looking at all three of them at the same time. I remember listening to an interview from the writer of this episode, DC Fontana. She said that, like, they just kind of stumbled upon. She's like, somehow we were able to take one human being and split them into three human beings with those three. And it's like, if you somehow put all three of them together into one person, you would have like the most ideal, like, human imaginable. It's like someone who's super in touch with the feelings with McCoy, someone who's very, though, dedicated to curiosity and logic and introspection, but then someone who will always work to make the right decision and just always take action rather than not taking action. It's like, if you could somehow take all that and create, but it's fun to see that broken apart and see, like, no one person can actually be that person. It takes multiple people to be that person.
Because they would literally tear themselves into thirds. Couldn't handle it.
That would just be terrifying.
Yeah.
It's also kind of interesting how, on a larger level, the Federation, all this kind of family and relationship stuff is playing. But the backdrop of this is this intergalactic politics stuff. How all these aliens are trying to work together, and that's kind of an interesting backdrop for all this. Like, it's kind of incidental to what the story is really about, like Spock and his parents and everything. But it's definitely what's driving the action forward. And it is interesting to see how it kind of works that on this macro level, there's this bigger thing playing out. And like, you have the scenes with Sarek and the Tellarite ambassador arguing with each other, and the Andorian stepping in, just like, oh, everything's fine, whatever. It's kind of an interesting kind of backdrop they choose.
Absolutely. They introduced the Federation's influence over the distribution of supplies and resources between planets, and the element of fairness, albeit fairness from the perspective of the Federation, of course, but ensuring that if there's a planet hoarding all of the wealth in the area, trying to influence that planet to reach out to neighboring planets, trying to help and trying to bring each other up together rather than trying to enforce a bureaucratic hierarchy, so to speak, which I think is very forward for the time. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I would agree.
Dare I say it, socialist.
Communism, Marxism. Oh no.
Oh no.
It's fun to think that, like, on the macro scale too, like, not a lot of things change as far as like strategic locations and supply chains go and things like that. Like, all the same issues that we deal with on Earth, just on a bigger scale. That's fun to think about.
Yeah.
A bigger, different scale. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Like, what's fun about this is even though there's like murder, but like in the end, it's revealed that, like, because they set it up, it's like, is it one of the delegates killing one of the other delegates? That's like Game of Thrones stuff, it's actually about the infighting and blah blah blah, And this kind of sets it up like it's gonna be that, but then it's like, oh, actually, none of the like, even though there was the heated words, but like the murder was only from some outside person just trying to weaken the Federation, because just realizing how strong the Federation is, because it's just all these people who are actually dedicated to. Yeah, there's maybe some big crazy thing going on, but it's noble in the sense that they're all coming together and everyone's willing to talk about how can we fix this, even when there's like strong emotion. And none of them were actually scheming against the other. It was some outside influence that tried to get everyone to think they were scheming against each other. That's kind of an interesting.
Not to mention all the the pig creatures and the Andorians. Yeah.
Yeah, so we get introduced to so we see the Vulcans. We've seen them before. We get the Andorians, the blue-skinned, white-haired antenna people. I guess the makeup for them I guess this was a pretty expensive episode. Like in the end, DC Fontana just kind of wrote, not thinking. Oh. And they were like, you have all these aliens and they can't all just be, in the past we've been able to get away with just like, it's just white people wearing a hat. You know, but it's like they can't all be that. You have multiple aliens, so we actually have to make alien makeup for it.
That's a lot of work, chef.
For the 60s, that was huge. So I guess the Andorian makeup was very expensive for the time, and they had to build like 3 of them, and like one of them has to like break because we see the antenna break, and it seems silly now, but at the time that was all very expensive to like put that together and make it look convincing and good.
I mean, it still is, but now we have an industry to back it up, you know?
Oh, yeah. This was them like flying by the seat of their pants, like all in-house. Like, how can we... Yeah, and then we get the Tellarites, who are like the argumentative pig people. And those masks, So I guess, because you see like the big eye folds, so I guess the actor, he couldn't see. So he had to hold his head back to look through. But it ended up being kind of a boon because it helped establish the Tellarites as these kind of, they look down on everyone and they're snobbish and they're argumentative and just because they're like, "Rrr." But it was just so he could see out the mask. Yeah, so this is the first time. And so the fun thing is later on it's established, this is just total trivia. Later on it's established that the humans, the Vulcans, the Andorians, and the Tellarites, they're all the 4 founding members of the Federation. And it's kind of a tribute to this episode because it's the first time we see
they're all interacting.
All the Federation interacting. So we're like, let's just actually make them the original members, the founders. So those are like all those are the 4 founding members of the Federation.
And then you never see the Tellarites again.
I think that's mostly all. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. We should also note that Mark Leonard previously played the Romulan commander in Balance of Terror.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, I learned he first appeared as a Romulan.
Yeah, when he was one of our earlier episodes, and it's the first time you ever see the Romulans. And he's like the Romulan commander. And in that episode, we were all gushing about his performance in that episode, how he was just so good. And so he was so good, they brought him back to play Spock's dad.
So if you had a good eye in the 60s watching the show, you would have been like, wait a minute, hang on. You would have had no DVD to go back to and check, you know?
Yeah.
You'd never be sure.
Nope.
I love that. It's like Capaldi's cameo in the earlier seasons.
No.
And they bring him back later.
Yeah. He's great. I think the casting for the parents is like spot on. It's like it's so easy to imagine them being Spock's parents. Absolutely. And as soon as you see those two, and it's like they make it really easy for your brain to start filling in the gaps of like what Spock's childhood might have been like with these two. Jane Wyatt was famous for she was the mom on the 50s sitcom Father Knows Best. So she was already famous for playing this kind of mom character, and so they brought her on to play Spock's mom. She had no idea what Star Trek was. She thought it was going to be like a comedy. What? And then she was like, this is like a dramatic, there's that scene where she has with Spock is pretty hardcore.
Oh yeah.
Very.
Heartaching.
Where she's just begging him to do the operation to save her husband's life, his dad's life. He's like, I can't. And that slapping scene, just every time I watch him, it's like, geez, no one ever wants to get slapped by their parents because
Well, that's what it was. I was going to say the point you were making about how they're both right and both wrong.
Yeah.
You see that exactly in that scene play out. Like,
Yeah.
both their cases are made, and you're like, how the fuck would anyone choose, right? Like, it's an impossible situation.
Yeah, and Spock even says it. He's like, "You're asking me, what would my father even say if he knew I abandoned like what I'm doing now is protecting the lives of the hundreds of people on this ship right now, and if I were to abandon that to save the life of him, just this one person, he would be incredibly disappointed in me." And she's telling him, "Don't. It doesn't matter what he thinks. It matters what you do, and you should care about your dad." And it's just this. They both have they're both sound in their own reasoning for what's going on.
Yeah.
And it creates a very impossible dilemma that Kirk ends up needing to resolve.
Yeah, stepping in, and that's good writing though. Like when there's like not clearly it's not like a clear, like when Spock says like I have to. There are hundreds of people on the ship, and like interstellar war could happen, and like you're not like Spock, you idiot, just save your dad. It's like Spock does have a legitimate point about not just like this is a tough spot, because he volunteered himself until Kirk got injured, and he was like, I can't now. It was like, oh no, but he's gonna die. But it forces you as the audience to wrestle with it rather than tell you what to feel about it. You're like, yeah, what is the, even though she slaps and walks out, you're like, I get where everyone is coming from in this.
Which is, good writing. It should never give you the answer. It's like if a painting, everybody looked at it and got the same thing out of that painting. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah.
I think they both do they both do a really good job. I think, and in fact, Mark Leonard, the guy who played Spock's dad, so Spock usually got the biggest chunk of fan mail every week. Fans loved the show, of course, even though it was struggling in the ratings. The fans who watched it loved it, and he always got the most. But for 2 weeks after this episode, Mark Leonard, a guest star, got the most fan mail. It was the only time that anyone got more than him.
Wow.
Spock's dad got more for a couple of weeks because of this episode.
Isn't that typical?
Oh my God, my dad.
It reminds me of Beckham and his kid on, like, I think it was Twitter, it might have been Instagram, but Beckham just flexing all his followers on his kid after he got like 1 million for the first time.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I guess the final thing is just, like I said, this is considered to be one of the classics, at least of the original show, if not maybe like one of the very few all-time. How does this one kind of hold up, just generally speaking?
Good episode of Star Trek. I mean, looking at the original series overall, I could see why you'd put it in a lot of people's top 10 if you had to. Personally, I don't know if I would.
Yeah, you said you weren't like, it didn't quite have your attention through all of it like some others did.
No. It was still good. It was still a good episode. It was well written. It was, I loved the look at the Federation. I appreciated that from a world building perspective. Mm-hmm. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood to watch a Star Trek today. Who knows? You know,
How could anyone never not be in the mood?
I don't know. Set and setting are everything, you know?
What do you think, Markay? How do you think this one holds up over time?
I definitely see why it's a classic. Getting to know Spock's origins, knowing his parents, learning that he is part human and part Vulcan, as well as the Federation look. I also really appreciated the intrigue throughout it. There was definitely a mystery present, and I'm a sucker for a mystery, obviously.
A little bit of whodunit.
Love a good whodunit. And this was full of whodunits. It was very twisting, and there was the mystery ship that they couldn't identify. There was the mystery murder. There was the attacker who was revealed to be a different attacker in disguise. I mean, it was very, very good writing, and definitely, maybe I could see why it's not in people's personal 10 favorite episodes, but I would argue it is part of the necessary Star Trek 101 episodes.
Yeah.
It very sets. it does a lot to set up the tone for the show and the world that the personal characters are experiencing, not just the universe, but the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree. Like, I think one of the things, I wouldn't call this my, like, single favorite. And there are definitely ones I would just, like, if I want to go watch a Star Trek episode from the OG show. I don't know if this would be, like, the first one I go to, but this is always one I enjoy in the sense that, like, like you said, there's so much going on in this one. This is probably one of the ones that juggles multiple things and does it really well. It's like there's like politics, there's espionage, there's starship action, the whodunit, then there's like this family drama. There's just and it all none of it gets lost. It all works. It all like it's all part of one story. But there's so many different things going on in this one, and I think DC Fontana does a really good job of making it all work. Nothing gets lost. Is this the first time we've seen the weird green wraparound? Have we seen this before?
I feel like we saw it maybe episode 4 for us.
Maybe
3 or 4.
Maybe earlier we saw it.
Briefly.
I love it.
It wasn't for the whole episode.
It's still the weirdest. Like, what is he wearing? The weird Captain Kirk green wraparound.
It's the emblem on the belly button.
That's like his belt, but it's like his shirt. It's the weird.
When soccer teams, they have their home and their away kit, but when they go to play teams from other countries, they'll have an alternate kit. So maybe that's his like interplanetary federation uniform. That's his alt.
Oh, jeez. I think a really fun episode, and I think you're right. Definitely Star Trek 101. There might be more entertaining ones to go back to, but this is like meat and potatoes, bread and butter. Mm. It's like this helps you. It really fills in the world, the show, the whole thing. Any final thoughts before we move on? Numenal. Well, there it is. Journey to Babel. We just all went on the journey to Babel, and I think it was a pretty good journey.
And it did have babes.
It
had a purple babe.
The purple alien babe in the back.
In the background, looking all like into the conversation.
Never forget.
Okay, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me ramble nonsense.
This whole show should be called Rambling Nonsense.
I feel like very little of what y'all said was nonsense today.
Next week we're going to be watching. So Star Trek does kind of become famous for these. I think this will be our first real one. Star Trek becomes famous for these allegory episodes where Star Trek will hone in on a contemporary issue of the time, and then we'll do a thinly veiled sci-fi plot, and it's like where they never actually say what the episode's about, but it's very clear what the episode is actually about. Episodes. So next week we're going to be watching A Private Little War, which is Star Trek's Vietnam episode. We're going to be getting out of this character-driven stuff and getting right back into like the high concept, like philosophical moral problem of the week.
Something about the threat of being canceled, I think, really spurs writers on to try to say something sometimes.
We got to make a splash here.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about Vietnam.
Do it.
We're gonna do it. So we'll see how well it turns out.
Good luck.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed what you heard. Hope you tune in again next week. And for more. Until then, I'm Jaron Hatch.
I'm Aaron Cole. Thanks, Markay.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to share your own Star Trek story or give us a hot take on the episode we just watched, you can join the conversation by visiting our Discord server. You can find us by clicking on the link in the show description.